Hello. One little thing, the presentation will be in English. Is this okay? Yes? Okay. Okay. Jeżeli nie mówię po polsku. Aha, niespodzianka. Nie, Meksykanin, który mówi po polsku. But the show is better in English, so let's put it in English. The safest thing you can do is take risks. The riskiest thing you can do is to play it safe. I really like this statement by Seth Godin because it shows the reality of the world today. This is the reality in which taking risks, it's a crucial part of our careers and it's a crucial part of our lives. The reality is that you are where you are not because of luck. You are where you are because you took risks others were not willing to take. You pick up the phone and you made that phone call. You went to that job interview. You asked that girl out. You are where you are because you took those risks. And the reality is that if you are not willing to take risks, you're going to be in trouble because the reality of the world today is that you have to be able to do that. And when I'm talking about risk, I'm not talking about, being reckless. I'm not talking about doing something stupid. I'm talking about being willing to try. I'm talking about being open to experiment and to try different things. And I was invited today to talk about how you can use this technology or these tools to build your position in the market in this era that we're living today. The thing is, I don't want to talk about technology because it's very simple to jump right away into the elements of Facebook and Twitter and which platform and which tools. I think that this goes better than that. This goes much, much, much deeper than that. And something that I realize is that life's best lessons come from very unusual places. A place where I found really, really cool things to think about is the circus. How many of you have been to the circus? All of you. Cool. I mean, talking about risks. In one place you have a guy dealing with the lions and tigers, and you have acrobats up in the air doing really, really cool stuff. And you have trapeze flyers swinging from one side to the other one. And if you think about it, the flying trapeze, it's a perfect place to find a lot of insights about what it takes to be successful. Think about it. You have a guy taking risks, going from one side to the other, letting go in the middle of the air, performing tricks that require lots of strength, lots of control, lots of precision, perfect timing, all so you can accomplish a specific, difficult technical trick that brings joy to the people that have the opportunity to experience that. Really cool stuff, don't you think? Now, the thing about the flying trapeze is that you don't become a great trapeze flyer just, by accident. It requires a lot of work, it requires a lot of training, it requires a lot of effort. And this is not just about trapeze flying, this is about everything. Just realize that maybe it's not a good idea that I'm showing you these pictures because for the rest of my presentation, you're not going to look at me as, the speaker or the social media guy, but you're going to see me as that guy wearing white tights because actually that guy over there, that's me. Yes. And especially for you, I have my white tights. No, just kidding. No white tights today. Now, why am I talking about this? Why I'm talking about trapeze? Why I'm talking about flipping and twisting and performing? As I mentioned earlier, if you want to be successful on the flying trapeze, you need to be willing to take risks. You also need to be open to try new things. You know, if you are able to perform a trick, you need to continue improve, and you need to continue learn new possibilities so you get better and better and better. The third thing you need to do is you need to be ready to work hard. Again, you don't become successful on the flying trapeze or anywhere else by accident. It requires continuous improvement day by day, day by day. And if we're talking about, I mean, there's a lot of things, a lot of elements that you need, but if we're talking about, you know, your positioning in the market, it's important to have a specific mindset. And to give you an idea what I'm talking about, I like to share the story of Great Britain's rowing team. Think about it. When you are in the national team, you are the best of the best. And these guys had a problem. They were the best of the best in Great Britain, but outside of Great Britain, they were not that good. For many years, they were 6th place, 8th place, 5th place, 7th place, and many different competitions and different events. And one day they realized that if they wanted to get better, they needed to change. They needed to try something different because what they were doing was not working. And of course, they made a lot of different things, but one of the crucial things that they did is they simplified their decision-making process. And basically, every single time they had to make a decision, they asked one question. Will it make the boat go faster? So simple. If the answer is yes, you do it. If the answer is no, you don't do it. Simple. So it's Friday night, let's go and party, let's have a good time, and let's just get wasted. Will it make the boat go faster? No. So we don't go, and they stay. Waking up early, 5 o'clock in the morning, going for a run and train really hard, will it make the boat go faster? Yes. So they stood up and they did it. And what happened, of course, this is not as simple as, you know, they did this and all of a sudden they became the best in the world. But this was the catalyst that started to change the way they did things. And all of a sudden, the moments where there will be this moment of, do we do it or not, it didn't become a matter of choice. It became a matter of a simple answer, yes or no. And what happened is, little by little, they went from 8th to 6th to 5th to 4th, until one day, this is the Hollywood ending, until one day, in the year 2000 in Sydney, they won the gold medal at the Olympics. Very Hollywood style. But there's an interesting lesson here. And Ben Hunt Davis, he wrote actually a book about this, called Will It Make the Boat Go Faster? Very good book, I recommend it. But something that Ben said was that elite performers don't simply work hard, they also work differently. Each day, often in small increments, they focus on what will make them better at what they do and improve the performance. And if we're talking about building your position, this is something that you really need to keep in mind. It's about every day, in small increments. It's not a big thing that from one day to the other one, it's a huge success, but it's about doing things differently. And I'm saying this because time and time again, I talk with people that, when we're talking about this technology and opportunities and everything, I hit the argument of, well, I tried that once, it doesn't work. Yeah, I tried that Facebook. And the approach is, we tried, but it's whatever. The reality is that opportunities don't just happen. You create them. And it requires commitment, it requires tenacity, and it requires to keep doing it on and on and on and on. It's not going to happen from one day to the other. Now, why this is important? It is important because if you want to make it big, you must try to become a key person of influence. That's a concept developed by this guy, Daniel Priestley, that basically argues that, we need to try to become a KPI, a key person of influence. Yeah, that's funny. And when I found about this approach, it really makes a lot of sense. And this is applicable not just if you're an entrepreneur or if you're in startups, if you're a freelancer. This is applicable also if you work for an organization. You want to build your position as an influential person in your team. And when I'm talking about influence, I'm not talking about how many followers or how many likes you have. I'm talking about really having an impact on your organization or on your clients. And I want to go very quickly through this framework, but I think that this is something good to have in mind. I mean, the great thing about frameworks is that they allow us to simplify things, understand them better. He created this framework, the 5 Ps. Number 1, you need a perfect pitch. What that means is you need to really know very well what is it that you do. And once you know what is it that you do, you need to be able to communicate that effectively. That's what he means by a perfect pitch. Number 2, you need to publish your ideas. That's what I want to be talking a little bit more about it. But publishing is an important part of building your position. If you are very smart and you have great ideas and nobody knows about them, nothing is going to happen. So you need to put them out there. Number 3, productize your value. This is important when we're talking about if you want to develop your own business. You need to make it easier for your clients to buy from you. So basically it's trying to figure out how to get all these ideas, put them in a box, and be able to sell that box. Number 4, raise your profile. Building your profile means putting yourself out there, doing what it takes to make yourself available to different people. You know, start what I do. You know, this keynote speaking and presentations is a way for me to put myself out there to raise my profile. So that's one of the things that you can do. Number 5, you need to create great partnerships. If you develop a network that is interested in helping you succeed, and you are also interested in helping these partners succeed, it's going to be a lot easier. Because someday, you know, a friend needs something and you are able to add value to his project, then you are able to help each other, and all of a sudden everybody's happy. So it's not about competing, it's about cooperating and collaborating in a way that is mutually beneficial. So think about this. Think about how you can define what is it that differentiates you from the rest. What is it that you do? Think about how you can communicate that in an effective way. And then you can do it, you know, in this order. How can you publish? How you can start sharing these ideas? And so on and so on. Talking about point number 2, because the focus of today's event is on social media. The reality is that social media gives us a great opportunity to be able to share knowledge, information, and skills. And I very carefully choose my words when I talk about sharing. Because at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. It's about sharing information. It's about sharing ideas. It's not about using this as a trick to come up with an easier way or better way to promote yourself. The reality is that thanks to digital, today is easier than ever to potentially reach a lot of people. And if you're using these tools in a way that it's authentic and in a way that actually adds value, you will be surprised. Because it's really cool. You never know who you're going to reach. And you never know what will be the impact that you might have through sharing this knowledge, this information, and these skills. A few years ago, I was in Dubai. I was there for some meetings, and while being there, I had the opportunity to meet an executive of a big company there. And you know, being there, we arranged to have lunch. And I suggested that maybe, you know, taking into consideration that I was there, maybe he would like to invite his marketing team, and we could have a discussion, and maybe we can find out different ways that I could help them out or something. He agreed, and the next day we met for lunch. Arrived to the restaurant, and he introduced me to his team. And as we're talking, I say hi to everybody, and all of a sudden I bump into this lady that when she looked at me, oh my God, I thought that she was looking at Brad Pitt. She was like, hi. It's a pleasure to meet you. Huge smile. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, thank you. Pleasure to meet you. Anyway, we start the conversation, we start talking. All of a sudden, this lady goes, I'm so sorry, but I need to tell you, I'm a huge fan of your show. And I'm like, okay. Now, what show she's talking about? Is she thinking that I'm somebody else? Did she know he's meeting Ivan Hernandez? I don't know. Okay, well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, what I realized, maybe I should have told this before. For quite some time, I have been producing a podcast. It's a simple 20-minute show in which I have almost every week I have a discussion with friends or with my partner, Paul Papadimitri in London, in which we just have a conversation and we talk about different topics connected with innovation, with digital, with technology, startups, etc., etc. And basically we have a 20-minute conversation, we record it, and we put it online. And my first thought when she told me that was, yeah, right. For sure, 10 minutes before the meeting, she Googled me, she found a link, she watched 30 seconds of the video, and now she's just being nice. So I'm like, okay. Well, thank you very much, very nice, yeah, whatever. We start talking. In the middle of the conversation, she goes, oh yes, like in the episode about the future of advertising, you mentioned that. She started quoting the show. And you're like, yeah, and mobile. Yes, you always say that it's not about mobile, it's about mobility because you say, and And I'm like, oh my God, this lady, she's really watching the show. So, interestingly enough, because of this situation, her boss is all like, oh my God, I guess this guy knows what he's talking about. And as a result of this, a potential big opportunity happened in a different side of the world. And again, you never know who is watching. You never know what's the impact that you're having. So that's why it's a really good thing to go for it. And with the reality today is that you don't need huge technical knowledge to be able to do this. You can do this for free using tools like Google Hangouts. You press one button, you start recording, you press the button, and it's automatically on YouTube. And from YouTube, you can connect it to iTunes. And all of a sudden, you're a media provider. That's the reality today. Today is easier than ever to do it. Now, why you should do it? Why is always a good idea to put out content? Well, there are many different reasons. A very important one is exposure equals leverage. If you have a lot of exposure, this gives you leverage. Leverage to generate awareness and be on top of mind. As you mentioned a little bit earlier, the fact that I'm constantly putting interesting articles and sharing interesting information, very often every time you open Facebook, there is a chance that there is an interesting article that I posted there. And someday, there might be a project that you might need help in that specific area, and the first person that might come to your mind, it's Ivan, because he's constantly talking about those issues. You get leverage that gives you access to great experiences. Because of this, the podcast and all the different things that I've been doing, I had a lot of great opportunities. I am one of the official bloggers of Le Web. Le Web is one of the biggest events, tech events in Europe. And I didn't go there because of my charming personality. I went there because they looked at my numbers, they looked at my audience, they realized that through me they could have access to a lot of interesting people. And every year I go over there to the web and have the opportunity to interact with a lot of really, really interesting persons. You have leverage for new career or business opportunities. Again, you never know who's watching. And again, if you have something to say and you share this knowledge and this information, potential clients or potential employers, they get to know more about you, not because of a CV or because of a piece of paper, but because you are putting out there your ideas. And if your ideas are valuable and they find that value for their company, chances are that you're going to get new opportunities. But you need to put your ideas out there. And yes, this could represent additional income streams. One of the things that I do a lot of keynote speaking. I speak, I travel all over Europe, speaking in conferences in London, in Germany, in Turkey, in Macedonia, in Bulgaria. And a lot of that comes because of the content that I put out there. So think about the leverage that you can get just by being more active on sharing knowledge, information, and skills. Now, the question is how? I really wanted to do this a little bit practical. I do not want to give you a theory. I don't want to turn this into a lecture in which I tell you, according to Smith, you need to do this and post every Tuesday and Wednesday at 3 o'clock. No. What I wanted to share is a little bit what I do. And also at the end, I want to show you a kind of like best practices, the guys that are really killing it. So you have a better idea of how is to do it well. For the rest of the presentation, I'm going to change knowledge, experience, and skills into the word that I don't like, but we need to use it, content. Sharing content. Because that's the word that we use in social media, right? Talking about content, I always like to say that when you're creating content, you should not focus on ROI, but you should focus on RUE. RUE meaning your content must be relevant, it should be useful, and it should be entertaining. If you can create your content to be all three at once, awesome, you're killing it. It's kind of hard. So at least, it's good to aim for accomplishing at least 2 out of 3. If you're talking about building your position in the market, you always need to be relevant, because that's what at the end of the day matters. It needs to be useful, but also it's not about showing how smart you are and trying to educate and share all the time knowledge, because you get boring afterwards. Element of entertaining is always good. Mark Schaffer, one of the biggest experts on social media, he puts it very nice, said that content is no longer the finish line, it's the starting line. How are you going to get that content view and share? That's the real formula for success. So what's really important is to also think about, okay, you have content. Now, how are you going to distribute that content? And that's when you need to develop a strategy and really understand where is your audience? How can you reach your audience in a more effective way? Because the days of, putting something, I remember the days where you connect LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all the platforms, and the moment that you post something on Facebook, it appears everywhere. I don't think that's the right approach. You really need to think and do your research and do your homework and find out, okay, where is my audience? How can I reach them better? If I put on Facebook, what content I put on Facebook in difference with, for example, content that you will put on, I don't know, Twitter or LinkedIn, whatever. So you really need to come with a strategy. By the way, while researching for this presentation, I found Mark's post, 25 Nuggets of Essential Social Media Wisdom. It's really good. I read that article, and it's 25 statements, nothing big, but it's a lot of statements that if we're talking about social media today, it will be good for you to check it out. Because there is a lot of really, really simple statements that make you go, that's true. So here's the link, tinyurl.com/smwisdom. Time for a picture if you want to get the link. Yeah. And I just share interesting content for you. That's how it's done. Second point that I wanted to make about social media, I think there is a big difference between doing social and being social. And what I would really like to ask you is to avoid doing social media. It's not about, yes, these are tools and these are ways for you to increase your reach, but at the end of the day, we live in an age of transparency and authenticity. And if you are not transparent and you are not authentic, people can tell and people smell it. If you are using social media as a way to trick or a way to push your agenda or your own little thing, or you are doing things just because of how people perceive you, people can feel it. So you really need to be authentic. You need to be social and stop doing social media. Talking about tools, of course, the big four, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, these are the main tools. But what I would like to ask you is not to close yourself just to these tools. There are hundreds, literally hundreds of different platforms in which maybe your audience will be easier to reach if you're there. So if, for example, you're a graphic designer, instead of putting a lot of effort into Twitter, maybe you should put your content in Behance, which is a platform for creative and for designers. So you need to do your homework. You need to figure out what is the best way to reach your audience and start sharing knowledge, information, and skills in those specific platforms. But you need to do your homework. Again, how do I do it? I share a lot of stuff. And when I share a lot of stuff, means I like to share a lot of stuff connected with my areas of focus and areas of expertise. I work mainly in the scope of experience design, innovation, digital marketing, digital transformation, helping companies understand this new reality of this new digital era. So what do? I share a lot of relevant articles and information connected with digital, innovation, experience design, and so on and so on. So you will see information on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, always trying to, not just sharing the link, whatever, but always trying to add a little something, a little comment, a little way to share that this is actually really interesting and you should check it out. But again, I think that this is the good first step. Start sharing interesting content. It doesn't even have to be yours. If you read something interesting and you think that this could be valuable for somebody, share it. And you never know. The person that gets it might find it really valuable and might take action because of that piece of content that you put out there. But I have one favor. Before you share anything, please at least read the damn thing. Time and time again, I see people just sharing. And they haven't even read the thing, they haven't watched the video, and they're just sharing stuff. And at the end of the day, yeah, it might be a really good article, but it might be something that is contrary to what you are thinking about or to your views, and at the end, you ended up looking like an idiot. I had a situation, a friend of mine was sharing a lot of stuff, and when you read the stuff, you're like, but you totally disagree with this point of view. Why are you sharing that? Are you sharing this because you want to engage in a discussion? And he's like, well, I didn't read it, but a lot of people like it, so I just put it online. I'm like, dumbass. Another practical tip that I can give you, use technology. How many of you are familiar with Buffer? Some of you, 3-4 people. Buffer is a really cool, very simple tool that allows you to schedule posts. So, and it's free. Of course, you can get the paid version that allows you more functionality. But this is it's a tool that allows you to schedule posts on at least LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. So again, if you do your homework and you figure out what is it that you want to share, when you want to share, what topics, at what time. For example, I do a lot of work with clients in the States and Asia, so I share at different time zones. I take a lot of that stuff into consideration. If you're just focused on Poland, you don't need to start sharing stuff at 1 o'clock in the morning. But again, you need to do your homework. And the really cool thing about this is that this allows you to be present online even when you are not there. You don't have to physically be there, putting stuff manually. I remember I had once lunch with a friend of mine, and he asked, he's like, dude, you're all day online. When do you work? I mean, I see you all the time putting stuff on Facebook and LinkedIn. What the hell is wrong with you, man? You need to, when do you work? And I just laugh and I look at him and I look at my watch and I said, okay, open Facebook. He's like, he grabbed his phone, opened Facebook, and he's like, when was the last post published? And he looked at it and the post was published like 5 minutes ago. And I'm like, I've been sitting down with you for 30 minutes. Yet, 5 minutes ago, I posted something on Facebook. How that is possible? It's like, you use technology. Since that day, he's like, oh my God, I love this thing. And he's posting all day on that thing. But again, find out different ways for you to take advantage of this technology. Now, the first step is sharing interesting, valuable stuff from other people. The next step, which I think is more valuable, is when you start sharing your own content, your own ideas, and when you start sharing stuff that you actually start creating and developing. Many years ago, I started a blog, and actually, I started from the same thing. You know, I read one day about how important it is to share content, and how, back in 2008, I realized that, wow, this internet thing is actually an important thing. Oh, what is this thing? Blogging. Oh, maybe I should try one. I went to WordPress. 35 seconds later, I had a blog, and I started blogging. And I started sharing a lot of content, a lot of posts. One thing that we need to be aware of blogging, it requires a lot of time. If you want to put quality content out there, it requires that you sit, you write, you think. Yeah, it helps if you think a little bit. It requires an extra effort. And I got to a point that I could no longer put the effort because I had too much projects and work. So one day, I came up with an idea. I asked a friend about what about starting using video. As I mentioned, through Google Hangouts, not even having to invest in any high technology or anything, record an interview and have the opportunity to have a 10, 15-minute conversation and put it online. And it's valuable content. My friends say yes. We did once, and he's like, dude, this is awesome. I also don't have time to write. So what do you think if we actually do this on a regular basis? And that's how the digital loop was born. Once a week, we schedule a conversation, and we talk for 20 minutes. Of course, it's not just talking like, so, how was your day? Oh, yeah, yesterday I went and I watched this show. No, we prepare a specific subject that we want to talk about. We do our research, and then we have an interesting discussion for 15, 20 minutes. We invite guests. Here we have Kei Shimada. He's the Global Director of Innovation for Dentsu. He's in Tokyo. My friend is in London. I am in Warsaw. And we have a really, really meaningful conversation that was very thought-provoking, that I learned a lot. I got a lot of really interesting insights, and I am sharing it with the world. And if somebody finds it valuable, even better. Talking about how to do it, so easy. For free, Google Hangouts, it gets recorded, then we extract the audio, we put it on SoundCloud, and from SoundCloud goes to iTunes. It takes 3 minutes to get it done. 3 minutes. Level of investment, 0. Well, actually, because of the feedback that we got from our audience, we invested on microphones, because that's an important thing when we're talking about audio. You want to have good quality audio. We bought a good set of microphones. That's it. And we're in business. Talking about distribution, the content is available for audio. If you like to listen, you can subscribe on iTunes, and you can listen to it when you're running, when you're on your way to work, whatever. If you are visual, you can watch the video on YouTube. And again, thinking about how you can reach people, because there are people that like to watch, there are people that like to listen, there are people that like to read. For some time, we tried, making the transcript of the conversations and putting them online as well. So you need to try different things. But a main point that I wanted to share, again, is from Mark Schaefer. He says, social media success doesn't require rocket science. The fuel is meaningful content. And the keyword is meaningful. The launchpad is a relevant audience, and the ignition switch is authentic helpfulness. I'm talking about sharing, about being helpful, about adding value. That's what is going to be the difference between doing social and being social. Gary Vaynerchuk. Are you familiar with Gary? Probably you are. Gary Vaynerchuk puts it in a very, very easy, simple way that actually makes a lot of sense, and I like it a lot. He calls it jab, 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 right hook. And basically the way he says is, you give, and then one day you might, ask for something. And if you're giving and giving and giving and giving and giving, The day that you ask, people are going to be, they will help you. Not because you are asking, then you're annoying. Now, talking about the pros. Oh, I'm going time. I have 5 more minutes. Brian Solis. How many of you are familiar with Brian? One? Only one? 2? Man, we need to promote Brian more. Brian Solis, he's a thought leader. He's a very, very, very smart guy. I have the pleasure of calling him a friend. Brian Solis is doing what I'm doing, but a completely different level. First of all, he is an author. He has published many books, and books that are excellent. They are not easy to read. It's not the typical, Saturday novel that you sit down and chill out and read, while hanging your toes on the garden. It requires a little bit of thinking and a little bit of involvement, but his books are excellent. And basically, he's been publishing his ideas, remember, the second P, publishing his ideas, sharing his point of view for many years, and as a result, he is a recognized author and a thought leader. Apart from that, he has his own blog, of course. It's very good to have your own piece of real estate on the internet. I highly recommend you to avoid just keeping, Facebook. I always joke that if one day Mark Zuckerberg wakes up in a bad mood and unplugs Facebook and all your stuff is there, you are screwed. So you need to have your own piece of real estate. He has a fantastic blog, but that's not all. What he realized, again, he started to think about how to distribute his ideas. He started to identify new platforms and new solutions. For example, LinkedIn. LinkedIn now, it's a platform where you can share and post as well. And what he's doing is he's publishing a lot of content on LinkedIn as well. Another interesting thing that he's doing, he's not just copy-pasting from his blog and putting the same thing on his blog and on LinkedIn. He's putting different content. So chances are that if you find him on LinkedIn, you might go to his blog and you will have a completely different piece of content there. Relevant and on the same topic, but it's different. And likewise, if you find him on his blog and you find him on LinkedIn, you are getting a better experience from different angles. What else he's doing? He understands the importance of visual content. One of the things that he's been doing for many years is he's doing really, really interesting and very, very good infographics. And these are infographics that are extremely shareable. Chances are that you have seen this before, and if you've seen it, chances are that you have shared it. And what's happening is you are expanding his ideas in a very, very simple way. And again, it's a very, very smart way to share your content and your ideas. Video. One thing that he did, he started to do a video show. Way more better production than mine. Basically, he goes to the place and he has, 3 cameras and he sits down and nice scenography and makeup and everything. But also he has a 20-minute conversation with a thought leader and he publishes that content online. And as a result, he's sharing a lot of interesting value. So this is a way in which Brian Solis has become a relevant, well-known thought leader by sharing knowledge, information, and skills. So that's a good way to do it. Now, some of you might be thinking, great, I don't have time for that, I'm too busy. Well, I wanted to show you a brief example. Mark Andreessen. How many are you familiar with Mark Andreessen? More of you. Mark Andreessen is the founder of Andreessen Horowitz, one of the most influential and important VC investors in Silicon Valley. Yes, his company has a blog. Yes, he publishes often in different big publications like the Wall Street Journal or Fortune or Forbes. But one interesting thing that he's been using is Twitter. Now, I know that Twitter in Poland is not that popular. I know that most of you think that Twitter is just for journalists and politicians. But the reality is that Twitter is a very, very powerful platform that I highly recommend you to check it out. And one thing that he's doing is, the thing about Twitter is that you can share anything you want in 140 characters. Now, if you want to share selfies, good for you, fantastic. If you want to share what you had for breakfast, awesome. I don't know how relevant your audience is going to find that information, but you can do whatever you want. What he's doing is he's sharing in 140 characters really, really insightful ideas. He's using in a way that, is more than 140 characters, and he uses spaces like this. But it's not rare to find really, really interesting points of view from a really, really, really smart guy on Twitter. And you might be surfing on Twitter, and all of a sudden you find out that he's talking about really, really interesting stuff, 140 characters at a time. So you can try that. Now, wrapping it up, one point that I wanted to make is this is what he does. That's what Brian does. This is what I do. What works for me might not work for you. And what works for you might not work for me. But you are not going to know until you try it. And that's what I'm talking about, that you need to take risks, you need to experiment, and you need to go for it. Because until you get your hands dirty, that's the moment that you're going to be able to know what works for you and what doesn't work. And the second thing is you really, really need to be committed. You don't get to be a great trapeze artist by accident. It requires effort, it requires dedication, it requires work, and it requires commitment. And again, this is not just about flying trapeze, this is about everything you do. The choice is yours. And this is fantastic. We have a choice. If you want to do nothing about it and you just want to chill and watch and read and not get involved, awesome. I'm not going to judge you. That's fantastic. That's great. But what I want you to understand is that we have huge opportunities and the tools are there. Now the question is, what are you going to do with those tools? Sorry. Thank you very much. I don't know, do you have any questions? Czy są jakieś pytania? Aha.
Iwan świetnie mówi po polsku, więc można po polsku zadać
nie wiem, czy świetnie, ale damy radę. Polak potrafi. Ja mieszkam już od 16 lat tutaj w Polsce, więc ja już czuję się Polakiem.
Super. Ja mam pytanie. Bo jak tak szerujesz, to i rozmawiamy dzisiaj o granicy między publicznością a prywatnością, to chciałem zapytać o inną granicę. Gdzie jest ta granica, żeby być uznawanym za takiego eksperta, jaki ty jesteś uznawany, a gdzie będziesz uznawany za, ktoś będzie uznawany za tego, kto tylko szeruje content i nie ma swojego zdania?
Czy mogę mówić po angielsku? Będzie mi łatwiej. Bo po polsku mam bardzo śmieszny akcent i nie wiem, czy będziecie słuchać mnie, czy słuchać mój akcent. I think that's a really, really good point. And that's why I think that it's a good idea to start sharing other people's content from the point of view of you being helpful and sharing interesting information that might be relevant for somebody else. But if you have something to say, if you have a point of view, and you know that that point of view and your opinion and your ideas could be valuable, the tools are there. And it's up to you how you're going to use them. I think that, yes, what you mentioned could be an issue. If you're just sharing and sharing and sharing other people's work, great. You are giving a lot of interesting information away, but I don't get to know what do you think about that. And that's why one of the things that I recommend is for you to develop your perfect pitch, meaning what is it that you do, understand it well, and then communicate it in an effective way, and then share your ideas. Because that's how you're going to build your position in the market. Depends what is the position that you want to have. If the position you want to have is a guy that shares a lot on Facebook, well, that's easy. If you want to share your position as a, I don't know, an expert on a specific area or field, the best way to do it is by talking and sharing information, your point of view in that specific field. Any other questions? This is the tricky part. Is there is no questions because everything is clear, or there is no questions because half of the audience fell asleep already 10 minutes ago? Pardon me? Yeah, everybody's tweeting.
Ja też wyszerowałem na Snapchacie, więc masz więcej 3 ekspozycje.
Oh, thank you very much. Jestem tutaj do końca dnia, więc jeżeli są jakieś pytania albo jakieś komentarze, albo macie coś do powiedzenia, jestem tutaj. Bardzo dziękuję za zaproszenie
My dziękujemy.
i życzę miłego dnia.